So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined all the way from Perth, Australia. I got Brendan Preston. He's the lead singer for All This Filth, which is a metal band from Australia. They just released an album a few weeks ago called Tomorrow Will Be Better. So, Brendan, thank you for joining me today on the couch. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks, Hector. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, no, I discovered your band because another YouTuber from Australia called Live Listen Erased, he did a review of the album, so I checked it out. I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds cool. Because I like to also, like, since I'm from Puerto Rico or Puerto Rico, because
Yeah.
that's how you correctly say it. I interview bands from my local scene, so it's good that he also interviews band from his local scene. So yeah, all this filth. How would you, like, when I'm listening to the band, I can tell some influences that obviously you like Fear Factory,
Yeah.
you like your Sepultura, and also there's like a tinge of like new metal elements to the music, at least in my ear. So, Brenda, I'm sure you've been asked, but like how would you define all this filth like sound?
Um, yeah, I mean that is a hard question, but you're dead set on with the influences, Fear Factory, Sepultura, a bit of Machine Head, in the early days, Chimera as well. And like later on, we've put a bit of Ministry in there and such, like, and Nail Bomb. So yeah, we have varied influences within the band, and yeah, there is a little bit of a new metal sort of influence. It's not overpowering, but there is a little bit of new metal. The way I describe it is we're like an industrial tinge groove metal band, like, or an we tried to come up with our own genre. We call it industrial groove core. So feel free to use that if you if you want. But yeah, so we the core of it is aggression and the groove. That's the main core of it, and with the industrial elements added in, because yeah, we like that sort of thing. So yeah, it's sort of hard to define exactly, but I mean that's probably the best way I would put it. It's a mix of different little bits and pieces from different genres, but the main ones being, groove metal, industrial metal, a little bit of thrash, death metal, bit of new metal as well. So yeah, there's bits of everything, like if we like it, we add it in, sort of thing. We try not to restrict ourselves too much to one particular thing. So yeah, that's the way we've sort of gone about it. And yeah, if for better or worse, it's just how we sound.
No, yeah, I like it because yeah, it has a little bit of everything. And actually, when you look at the album cover, I don't know why the album cover also I'm like it could look death metal because of the logo, but like the more parts of the painting, I don't know why I got like emo vibes. But you don't sound anything emo. But I'll show the artwork in a bit. So I know the band. This is the Tomorrow Will Be Better is your third album, correct?
Yes, it's our third album. Yeah, we've done 3 albums and 1 EP. So yeah.
So tell us a little bit like how the band formed, a little bit of history.
So it was 2007, 2008. I was in another band with a couple friends called Dissonant, sort of local band here in Perth. And we played like one show. We'd been around for a little bit, but only played one show. And then that band sort of fell apart. A few members left for various reasons. And then the bassist and I, a friend of mine, Jared, and Jared Thornton and I, continued on, and we got some new members, and we took the name of one of the songs from Dissonant, which was called All This Filth, and we were like, that's pretty cool. So we called the band All This Filth, and that's where the name comes from. It was an old Dissonant song. And yeah, so we took that, and yeah, that's how we formed it, sort of thing, with the intention of, like I said, with adding elements of groove, bit of death thrash and industrial elements into it. So like I said, the big influences back then were Sepultura, Fear Factory, Chimera, Machine Head. They were our big influences back then. And as time gone on, we've added a bit of hardcore punk, we've added more elements of industrial and such. But yeah, I mean that's the basics of how the band started back in about 2008.
Yeah, and there's obviously years where with everything that happened, it's not easy putting out music. So I know that recently, I believe a few days ago, this weekend, you opened for Machine Head and Fear Factory, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
It is.
Yeah, like yeah, it's like they're two of my favorite bands of all time, and they came here just recently. It was a couple of days ago, Saturday, so it's Wednesday now, so it was literally four days ago or whatever, 4 or 5 days ago, and yeah, it was, we weren't expecting there to be local supports on this tour because it was, Machine Head and Fear Factory in their own rights. They're both headliners. And I thought they're both going to have hour and a half long sets at least. So I thought they won't have any local support bands. And previous to that, we'd had a few support slots. We opened for Powerman 5000 last year as well,
Oh,
which
yeah,
was,
I remember them.
yeah, yeah, so they came last year in January. It was a really good show. And then yeah, we got the support slot for Machine Head and Fear Factory, and we were like, wow, this is awesome because it was at the Astor Theatre, which is a pretty huge venue here. I think it's 1,100 or 1,200 people, and it was sold out as well. So yeah, like it was just it was a very surreal experience getting up there and opening for some of the bands that I grew up listening to when I was a teenager. I was listening to those bands and I got to get up on stage and open for them. It's really cool. And the show went really well. We played really well. We got a good response from the crowd. And basically, I didn't have to buy a drink the rest of the night because I just went out into the crowd afterwards after we finished packing up and just watched the other bands. And people were coming up and they were like, "Oh my God, you're that guy that was on the stage." I'm like, "Yeah." And people were just buying me drinks and telling me how much they enjoyed the set and stuff. And we made a bunch of new fans and new friends. And yeah, I mean, it was just a great night all round. The set went really well, and then I got to watch two of my favorite bands of all time play, and they were, awesome, flawless. So I mean, all around, it was just a really good night, for everyone involved.
Awesome. So you being a Fear Factory fan, have you heard the new single by Burton Bell? He just put a new
Yeah.
single called Anti-Droid, and I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on that track?
Okay, so funnily enough, I heard that single literally the night before the gig. So the Friday night before the gig, I saw on the phone Burton released the new single. I watched the video clip and I like it. I like the song. And I think what you sort of get alluding to is there's a bit of buzz about some of the lyrics being a little bit of a not a jab, but sort of talking about his exit from Fear Factory. And without knowing what he's, what's in his head, I would interpret it that way myself as well. That he's basically just saying he needed to get clear of all that and it was a toxic situation or whatever. I don't necessarily think it's, he's not out there slandering anyone or anything, but yeah, I mean, I like the new single. I hope everything goes well for him because he's one of my favorite vocalists of all time. I met him once when he was with City of Fire opening for Soulfly, a bunch of years ago. Seems like a nice guy. Yeah, I can't really say anything bad about it. It was a good single, and I'm looking forward to more songs from him.
I thought it was interesting. Who's
Hmm.
singing in Fear Factory now?
So his name is Milo Silvestri. He's an Italian guy.
Oh,
He's from Rome. Um, I didn't really have anything to do with him. We sort of didn't really cross paths on the night, but he did really well. Yeah, he sound like, to be honest, he sounds a lot like Burton. And he's got a red hairdo at the moment, which sort of harks back to a bit of how Burton looked back in the day as well. So yeah, he sounds a lot like Burton. He nailed the set. You can't really complain. Like yeah, if you closed your eyes and you didn't know, you would think for a while that it was Burton, to be honest. But like, yeah, he killed the set. Like, absolutely sounded great. So, good luck to Burton. Good luck to Fear Factory. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to add to any of the acrimony sort of thing. Like,
No, of
it is
course.
what it is.
But
Yeah, I mean,
it
the
has to
situation.
be hard to be the new guy in a band
Oh,
that.
definitely.
Mm,
Definitely huge shoes to fill, and I think he's doing it rather well. Like as a fan, obviously, I like from way back in the day, I want to see the original, the classic lineup together. But I mean, I understand being in a band myself that had been through many lineup changes that just sometimes people are in different places in their life, and for whatever reason they're either not getting along or they've just got different things that they want to do, and that's life. So Fear Factory is going to go on with the new lineup, and good luck to them. And I hope it all goes well because they sounded great. And Burton's going to do his own thing as well. And good luck to him because I like the new stuff that he's doing as well. So I mean, hopefully it all goes well and we have two awesome bands to look forward to.
yeah, it's like a marriage. I actually saw Fear Factory here in Puerto Rico with Soulfly. It was Soulfly and Fear Factory, but Fear Factory was headlining, and they the local municipality says that they had to stop an hour, so they put on the lights while they were playing, so they cut their set short.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that really sucked. I remember that. So going back, to all this filth. So I listened to the album and I like it because it's kind of an album that there's some parts where it seems like there's no hope because it starts with a song like it's never going to be okay, but then you end with tomorrow will be better. So tell me a little bit about like the concept behind this record, like the themes that you're delving into.
Okay, so I sort of have to explain partially the theme behind the last album to sort of because it sort of flows into this album. So the
Okay,
last album is called Misery Season, came out in 2019, and
you called it.
yeah, yeah, well,
You called
nobody, yeah, I'm not Nostradamus here. Nobody could have predicted what the world was going to go into. I mean, funnily enough, like we being from Perth, Western Australia, actually, the pandemic was a unique period over here because our state government shut the borders, and so we didn't really get hit that bad by COVID initially. And our state, we basically, for the most part, we didn't have too many lockdowns, and we got to operate like business as usual, but we couldn't leave the state and nobody could come in. So for the local music community, there was a little bubble for a while that was actually quite good because the only entertainment was the local scene. So people were all coming to the local scene. So I mean, that was kind of cool. But obviously the overall the pandemic was bad. Obviously, it was a terrible thing. But yeah, no, the album had nothing to do with that. Anyways, that album was written and recorded obviously before that. So Misery Season is a bit of a theory that I have that like obviously people go through hard times, and I have this thing called Misery Season, and like when you're going through a hard time, you can be going through absolute misery, and like a season, it comes and goes, to varying degree. So that album was about myself going through a really tough time in my life, and my goal was to just put down on like record and put all my feelings onto the album and release the album, and out of all that negativity, I would hope that somebody out there would connect with it and get something positive out of it. And so that's what I was really hoping to do at the time, because I was in a really, really bad place. I was in a really dark place, mentally speaking. Um, so that album sort of didn't start out as a concept album, but eventually sort of worked out to be an inadvertent concept album. From start to finish, it reads the story of the Misery Season. So that song, that album finishes with a song called I Am the Fortress, which is a bit of a defiant statement of like, yeah, all this bad stuff's happened, but at the end of the day, I'm still here and I'm still surviving. And so where Misery Season finished, Tomorrow Will Be Better picks up. It literally starts with the sample from the last song, like the last song from the last album, sample from I Am the Fortress. So you'll hear that, and then you hear the car crash, and then the first song on the album starts, It's Never Gonna Be Okay. And so whereas Misery Season was describing a time in my life that a really hard time in my life, Tomorrow Will Be Better, it has a question mark on it because
Yeah.
it goes basically, it's sort of asking the question like, okay, so I've survived that misery season, knowing full well that another misery season will come eventually because, you know, seasons come and go, and hard times in everyone's life will come and go to varying degrees. And so this album, this new album, Tomorrow Will Be Better, asks the question, now that I've survived that misery season, what do I do now? Where do we go from here? Because at the end of the day, I've survived that, but the world is still a messed up place. I'm still battling demons on the inside as well. And so it's this constant battle between the battle on inside, mentally speaking, and the battle outside with the world and how I see it and just how messed up the world can be. You know, just with the environmental crisis at the moment and, you know, world politics, economic situation around the world, you know, I think themes that can anybody in any country can relate to on some level because
Universal
everywhere in
thing.
yeah, everywhere in the world is there's hard times and specific things going on that make life harder to live. So yeah. So Misery Season is telling the story of, you know, me getting through or trying to survive that and how I was feeling in that misery season. And Tomorrow Will Be Better ask the question, where do we go from here? What do we do next? How do we survive the oncoming storm? Because eventually misery season's coming back, right? You know, that's just how it is. That's life. So yeah, instead of telling a story, it's sort of asking more questions, and that's how I would describe this album. It's more of a question of where do we go from here? What do we do now? And you know, how do we survive the new and upcoming challenges?
So yeah, for you, like songwriting, do you find it like it's like a cathartic experience that you get to like get that stuff out of you and like a release? Because I know like for you personally, you're releasing stuff that happens to you, but also it's also like people who listen to it that maybe going through different things, struggles, might find that music like can relate to it and also like heal themselves by listening to someone who also had those type of experiences.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's very cathartic to go back to the first thing you said. Um, I don't know. I sort of do music. Well, I'm a vocalist in a metal band. I like to scream. I like to get my emotions out. I like to write lyrics because I sort of have this compulsion, like I need to do it. Like I have to get this out here. Like it's all built up in here, in inside me, and I need to get it out. So for me, it's something I have to do. And like I said before, what I'm hoping to get from it is that someone else might get something positive out of all the negativity. So yeah, on one sense, it's cathartic just to get it out, and it's rewarding to also see other people get something positive from that as well. So yeah, I mean, it's good like that. You know, I hope people enjoy the music and I hope people enjoy the lyrics and such. But at the end of the day, I need to do this for myself first and get it out there. And yeah, but I really do hope that people connect with it and get something positive out of it. That's sort of the mission, you know. Um, but yeah, that's sort of why I do it. yeah, I sort of do it because I have to do it, really. That's the simplest answer. And like I said, it's just, really good catharsis.
Yeah. So what is your process when you're like writing lyrics? How do you handle it? Like, do you first listen to the music or do you write down stuff before the music is done?
Both. Sometimes, so we write, not that I've written with the current lineup, but like when we write, it's usually it can be a combination of sometimes one of the guys will come in with a riff or a drum beat or something, and then we'll go, okay, that's cool, and we work on it. Sometimes I'll go in there and I'll be like, I have this theme, I've written down some lyrics, or I've written down a theme that I want to talk about. And so we'll try write music to go with that theme to get that sort of vibe, get that feeling. So yeah, sometimes I go in there like, this is the feeling I need to get out, and we need to write something that'll go with that. And yeah, sometimes they'll come in with something and I'll be like, oh, cool, that gives me this sort of vibe, and then I'll write lyrics to that. So yeah, we do both. It goes both ways, really. It's not just one way. It's, how whoever's got the hot hand, so to speak, whoever's got the main idea, we just go with that. And that sort of seems to be a fair and a good way of writing, I think, because I think if it was just all one way or the other, like if I was just constantly reacting to music being written, or if it was the other way around, if I just went in there and just dictated, this is what I want written, um, it wouldn't be as enjoyable for the other guys. I mean, that being said, sometimes I do go in there. I'm like, I've got a rhythm in my head. Like, I'll go in there and you just mouth it. You're like, give me a or something like that, and they'll write a riff like that, or whatever. So yeah, we just whoever's got the idea, we just sort of work on that.
Awesome. So do you have a like a favorite track from the new album that the one that I know it's kind of hard because they're all like I've talked to other musicians, they're like, but they're my babies. But like, come on, be honest. We like I'm a father, so sometimes we have a favorite baby. I don't know, so it depends. Like, or at least a song that you think represents the like as if someone had to listen to one song from this album that you say this song represents everything that the album does, which song would that be?
That's hard. That's very hard
Yeah.
because there is some different songs. I'll give you, okay. So if someone said, give me one song to listen to that sort of represents the whole album, I would probably say put on Still Bleeds My Heart, because I feel like that encapsulates a bit of everything the album's got. It's got a, fat groove, it's got industrial samples, it's
Oh
got,
yeah, at the beginning, I think. Yeah, it has like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and it's really fast and aggressive. So it's aggression, groove, industrial stuff that encapsulates a lot of what we do. That would be the one song I would say if you put a gun to my head and said choose one song. Um,
You
the
don't
and
have
I'm
to be
really
so
proud of that.
extreme.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I'm proud of that song as well. But I'm also proud of other songs where we challenged ourselves and did something different. Song like Skyline, which is a bit different for us, is a bit slower, a bit more I don't know, sludgier sort of
Yeah, that's
thing. And
almost at the
actually,
end of the album. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So actually, the theme for that I had when we were writing Misery Season, and I wanted to write the song Skyline for Misery Season, but we ran out of time and money basically, so it never got written. So we wrote it for this album, and it's sort of a bit of unfinished business from the last album that I put on this one. So I'm proud that we got to do that. Um, Breathing Concrete's another one that is a bit different. That we did a video clip for that as well, and that's really cool. That was one that our at the time he wasn't our bassist, he's our keyboardist, but Benny, who's our bassist now, he had a bass riff to start the song off, and our guitarist at the time took that, and then we started writing that song based around the bass. And yeah, that was kind of cool. That song sort of challenged us a bit. So I mean, there's songs you know, there's various songs that I'm proud of. I mean, It's Never Gonna Be Okay. I came up with the so what the fuck, so what the fuck, what the
Oh
fuck.
yeah.
That I had that rhythm stuck in my head. And so we wrote the song based around that. So I mean, that just goes to show, we have one song written on by, from the basis. One was an idea I had, and then other songs were just various ideas. So I mean, yeah, it is hard to choose just one song. But yeah, I'm proud of a bunch of the songs on the album. I mean, Exploitation's kind of cool as well. Just really in your face, hit it and quit it, 2.5 minutes, bam, in your face.
Almost the whole album is almost in your face. And Breathing Concrete is a cool title because like it has to be painful
Yeah.
to breathe
Yeah.
concrete. And
Yeah,
I still
exactly.
bleeds my heart. I'm glad you like some of the electronic samples. I don't know why it kind of reminded me of a band like Static X.
Yeah.
Which also is I'm like it's a band that mixes industrial with other things. And
Yeah.
if you take your dreads and you put them up, Wayne Static. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big Static X fan myself actually as well. So yeah, I saw the Project Regeneration Static X without Wayne Static basically. I've seen him twice. And I saw Static X like
it's kind of weird to see someone with a mask of someone who's dead.
it is. It is. And I will say that it's not as good because I've seen Static X with Wayne Static and
I
it's
never
not
had
as
the
good.
pleasure.
Oh man, yeah, it's a whole other thing, and it's they were really good. Don't get me wrong, Project Regeneration, I've seen them twice now, and they were really good. But it's not. You're right, it's not the same. But I'll say that Zero or Edsel Dope. Everybody knows it's
Yeah, we
Edsel
know
Dope.
it's the guy from Dope. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but he does a really good job. Like you can't fault him. He does a really good job and puts on a really good show. So I mean, it is still a really good show. It's really enjoyable to watch. If you'd never seen Static X before, I'd recommend checking it out. And even if you have, check him out anyways.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
but
playing
yeah,
the
if you have,
States now with Seven Dust.
yeah, yeah,
That's a
that's a
good.
great.
I've seen Seven Dust live. Good show.
Yeah, Seven does a great live. Yeah, two really good bands there. Yeah, it's great. Who did they come across here? When I saw them last, they were here with Soil, and that was okay. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Australia gets a lot of shows, but here in Puerto Rico, we get metal bands coming here, but we don't have those big festivals that Australia has. Although
Yeah,
I read that there was a festival that happened in Australia and some bands didn't get paid and they're
yep.
never going to do that festival again. I can't remember the
Yeah.
name of the festival, but I read that online.
Downwave,
Downward.
Downwave Fest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny you should say that because in Australia because we're so far away from the rest of the world, geographically
We're
speaking.
an island too, only that we're
Yeah,
a little tiny island.
true. But yeah, it's funny because we actually, and especially in Perth, Western Australia is actually the most isolated capital city in the world. Like, because we're so far away from the rest of the country. We're on the west coast, like down in the southwest corner of the west coast. And when you see Australia, what a lot of people don't realize is there's really only a couple cities around the edge, and
They're
like
all near the water, and
yeah,
like the
the
center is
middle,
all like desert
yeah, basically.
and,
So there's
and things that will eat you.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty much true. So yeah, hardly anyone lives in the middle of Australia. So there's a couple of little cities and more towns really, but so we are rather isolated. So we don't get a lot of tours. But that it depends where you're from because, like you said, you guys don't get a lot so we get more than what you guys would get, but not as much as people in say England or the US
Oh yeah.
or would get obviously, or in Europe, mainland Europe as well. So I mean, and it's funny because when bands do come to Australia, a lot of the time they don't come to Perth because we're so far away from the rest of the country. They do Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, the East Coast. So we do miss out sometimes, but I'm not going to complain because I like living in Australia. I like living in Perth. It's nice. You really can't complain that much. Good weather most of the time, although it's really hot right now. It's quite hot, but that's Australia.
Puerto Rico is we got the same season. It's hot, hotter, less hot, but
Yeah,
like maybe in December it gets a little bit windy, but it's never like cold. So I want to
yeah,
show the artwork for the album. So
cool.
here's the artwork for all these fields. Tomorrow will be better. And see, this is the guy with the hoodie. I'm like, he looks like an emo kid. So tell me about this artwork. Who worked on it?
The artist's name is Kat Atkinson. She's a local artist. She's from over here in Perth. And yeah, she'd done a couple she'd worked with a couple of other bands from Perth as well. Our friends in Tempest Rising and another band, Chaos Divine, from Perth. And we thought, yeah, we'll just hit her up this time. And I sort of because our last couple album covers, there's a lot of black. And so this time I wanted to have like white as the main color in the background. And then for whatever reason, like I just had this vision of like off in the distance, the city and like, you know, and then someone sort of the dude with the hoodie sort of looking over the city. And yeah, so I had this, I don't know why, I just had it like in my head. And obviously I'm not a artist, so I can't, you know, make it happen. I can't get it out of my head. So we hired Kat. I described what we wanted and she nailed it. She got exactly what we described. So that's the artwork for Tomorrow Will Be Better. It's you know, it's supposed to look a little bit bleak. Because you know, that's the way I see things sometimes. But you know, it's although it is a lot of black and white, life isn't so black and white. So, you know, there's a bit of gray in there as well. But yeah, and then we just added the ATF, the guy in the ATF hoodie. It's actually ambiguous because we had a friend of ours with the Still Bleeds My Heart video clip named Claire, and she was in an ATF hoodie doing the video clip. And so we sort of had the idea because did the video clip like that, which was like, oh, it kind of looks like what you're describing in the thing, one of the other guys said. So we're like, yeah, that's funny. We'll put the ATF hoodie on the person in the thing. So I mean, it could be a guy, could be a girl. We've just sort of left it open, you know.
Uh,
Um,
uh, it's a human being.
yeah,
We don't know, but yeah, it's a cool cover. It kind of reminds me. I don't know if you know the band Shadows Fall.
yeah, I know Shadows
Their,
Fall, big fan. Yeah,
yeah, their last album, Fire from the Sky, had like but the city's like closer, like a broken city and stuff like that. So yeah, it goes well with the themes in the record and everything.
yeah.
So yeah, so Brendan, I know that you had that show. So what are the plans for all these filth this year? What do you have in store?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the show came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it, but it was really good because earlier this year, so it's been a busy couple months. Late last year, we did some touring to the East Coast. We went over to Victoria and we did a couple shows in Victoria, including a festival called Kill Fest, and that was really cool. And then so that was in November, late November last year. And then earlier this year, then we came back, did our Christmas show back home in Perth, which went really well. And then, like literally a couple days after New Year's Day, we went across to the other side of the country again, played some shows in Queensland this time, did a festival called Monk and Pedal Festival over in Queensland, which is really good, and a show in Redcliffe in Queensland. And then we came back and then we did the album launch show a couple weeks ago. So the album came out like early February. And then February 23rd, we did the album launch show at the Rosemount Hotel, which went really well. Great response, some good reviews and such. So everything was going really well. And then we got the Machine Head thing and we were like, oh,
Awesome.
wow. That's like 2 weeks later. So we did that. And now we've got a couple of local shows coming up. But beyond that, we're looking to do some more touring to the East Coast, possibly overseas if we can hook it up. It's really just a matter of finances because
Oh
we're so
yeah.
yeah, because we're so isolated. It's very expensive, even just to get to the other side of the country.
The same
It's
thing
cheap.
with bands from Puerto Rico. Not to play in Puerto Rico, but if they wanna, like most of the bands from Puerto Rico, like the goal is to go play like the States,
Yeah,
uh, and stuff like that. But like when you tour Australia, because it's so huge, like do you
yeah.
go on a bus or do you go on a plane? Because like it's huge.
Plane. Yeah. So from
Plane? Did you say
Perth,
plane?
yeah, plane. So from Perth, we have to fly to the other side of the country. So like, you know, when we went to Victoria, we went to Melbourne, And when we went to Queensland, we flew to Brisbane. And once we get there, we sort of base ourselves. We either get like Airbnb in the town we're staying at, or like, um, something like that. And then we just hire a van and drive around that, couple cities or
Yeah.
suburbs or, you know, so that's what we tend to do. But yeah, I mean, then you're paying for accommodation on the other side of the country, and like, flights are pretty expensive. So, we sort of do these little runs, like, just a couple shows over a long weekend or something, and then come back, because we can't afford to be staying over there for like a month or so, trying to do
No.
multiple shows over multiple. It's just too expensive. And we can't afford to fly back and forwards every single week as well. Not at the level that we are anyways at the moment. We're a bigger local band in Perth, but we still got to build our fan base on the East Coast and worldwide as well. So we do okay, but like we want to get to that level where we're starting to do tours with bigger bands, and then we go out for a longer period of time. But yeah, we got to get there first, and it's just really expensive and really hard. But we are in talks with some people to do some more touring in the East Coast, because that's what we want to do. We want to get out there, meet more fans, and have a good time doing it, playing the songs and taking it to the masses. That's really all I want to do, to be honest. Like,
No, of course.
I just want to make music, play shows, meet people, and just that's it. It's as simple as that, but it's not as simple as that to make it happen. But that's the goal, and yeah, we'll just keep going for it, and doing the best we can with the resources we have available.
Yeah, like a lot of people think that it's easy, but no. Me interviewing bands these last 2 years and a half, I've learned a lot from the like the things that people don't see. Like I go to shows here in Puerto Rico, and some people tell like a promoter like, "Oh, just bring this band." I'm like, as it's not as easy as that.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of planning involved, logistics. So that's what people think. Oh, it's easy. Just tell them to come here. It's not as easy. And obviously here touring bands can go, like if you go from the north of the island to the west, it's like maximum a 3 hour drive. Like Puerto
Yeah.
Rico, it's a small island. But Australia, like yeah, the immensity of I think it's the biggest island continent in the world.
It's the only island continent in
The
the
only
world, but
island continent, yeah.
the only island continent in the world, and I believe it's the biggest island in the world.
It is the biggest island in the
Yeah.
world.
So, and yeah, like you said, you can drive from one side of Puerto Rico to the other in 3 hours, whereas here, we wouldn't even get into another state if we drove for 3 hours.
No, 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 no.
We'd catch a flight I think to get to Queensland, it was like a 5 or 6 hour flight to get to Queensland. Just getting to the other side of Australia
Five
is
to 6 hours
yep,
flying from your own
yeah, flying.
country.
Yeah,
Wow,
within our own country, just to get to the other side of the country. That was to Queensland to get
that
to,
is
I think.
crazy.
So Sydney and Melbourne, I think, are about 4.5 hours each as well. So somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. Basically, you're looking at, 4 or 5 hour flights just to get to the other
Just
side of the
imagine
country.
driving, it would be like 20 hours or something like that.
Driving, it would take you a week. Yeah, you like, even if you drove straight across the Nullarbor, it would take you about a week or so.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you'd have to stop. Eventually you can't. But
You gotta
yeah,
eat, you gotta stop.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a really vast country. Like I don't think people really understand, and you get a view of it when you're flying over it, and you look down, and it's just like just desert and just nothing, just absolutely nothing. Not that it's nothing. Obviously, if you went down there, you could. There's scenery and such. It's quite a, in its own way, very scenic country, very pretty, and like we got different areas. So there's not just one thing. It's not like the whole country is just desert, because we've got rainforests as
Oh no,
well.
I know. You got
Yeah,
rainforest, you got
we've got
deserts,
yeah, we've got everything. We
Great
sort of
Barrier
have,
Reef, like
yeah. and we even have a little bit of snow on the East Coast up in the mountains, but not a lot. Like I've never seen snow in my life because it's just too hot here in Perth. But so we've got yeah, it's a really varied and vast, such a big country. There's just so much space. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's
So
hard to describe because you don't understand it till you've sort of seen it. And I haven't even seen a lot of this country, to be honest, because it's such a big country. Like, how do you
I
explore it?
bet.
Like, yeah, I mean, and I've lived here my whole life, and I've not seen I've seen but like as we say over here, bugger all. Like we've seen barely any of the country, compared to how big it is. So
No, I would imagine. So Brendan, so before I let you go, like of course, like you have that distinctive look with the dress. Would you ever like would there be a time that you would consider changing the look? Because I sometimes they're like, oh no, it's the look.
um I don't know. So I don't know. When I was younger, and new metal was like big when I was younger. And when I was younger, I had like shaved around the head, and then like on the top I had the spikes, like Chad from Mudvayne. Like,
Oh
do you remember?
yeah.
I had the spikes, and I had like, blue black hair and all sorts of stuff when I was a teenager. And then that got annoying to have to do that every day to style my hair. So I got dreadlocks, because they're a big fan of Sepultura and Max Cavalera, and at the time Static X, some of the guys, with the dreadlocks and such, and Lejeune from Seven Dust and what have you. And yeah, I don't know. I've just sort of I don't know. I like the dreads. I have them at different lengths. I recently cut them. That's why they're shorter now than they were previously. Would I don't know. Would I ever get rid of them? I don't really think about it all that much. Um, it's just, I don't know. Our manager actually says, don't ever cut the dreads, because if you cut the dreads, no one will recognize you. So,
Probably.
yeah, I mean, it would be hard. Like, people would have to do a double take, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think about it all that often. I like the dreads. I'll grow them and keep them until I feel like changing. I don't know why. Do you think it doesn't suit me, or what do you
No,
think?
no,
Like,
no, not at all. No, you go, you have that look. Yeah, no, it goes with you, man.
yeah,
No, it's nothing bad because like sometimes it was just like a funny question, like because a lot of people like uh go like change the hairstyle because it's happened. Like the Offspring,
yeah,
Dexter, there was a time that he
yeah,
had, and then he cut it and he had this, and
yeah, yeah,
like a do like a double take. And Lenny Kravitz, that's a perfect example.
yeah,
When he cut his dreads, I was like, no, and then he put his hair all like perm, and I'm like, no, 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 but no,
yeah.
no, yeah, they
I don't know.
go with your
I don't know.
personality, man.
Yeah, I don't think about it too often. Like, I'll keep on with the dreads until I get tired of it, really. But it's not something I think about on a daily basis. Sometimes when they get really long, I start to get like, oh man, they're getting out of hand. They're wrapping around my arm when I'm
I have a
asleep. And
funny story about that because the
yeah,
singer from Shadows Falls has
yep,
dreadlocks, but his dreadlocks are huge. They go into the floor. So
yeah, yeah,
He was playing Puerto Rico and he's headbanging. This was in
yeah.
2012, and his dreadlocks got like stuck into a light.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they had to like it took him. He had to do like something to like set himself free. So
Oh wow.
no, but yours are not like a dangerous. You're not gonna die like stuck with the dreadlocks. But the shadows fall. That his dreadlocks are like they're like huge. Like
Yeah.
they fall to the floor. So
Yep, I've seen him play. I played live before over here in Perth, and this would have been like, I'd say 2005 or something, and they were still that long back then.
yeah,
And when he was windmilling, I was at the front at the mosh pit, and he was windmilling, and his dreads smacked me in the face because they're that big. But it was really cool because I'm
I'm
just like,
sure it
yeah.
hurt.
Oh no, it didn't. It didn't hurt. I was young, and like I'd probably had a bunch of drinks, so I was fine. You get the adrenaline in the mosh
But
pit,
it's
but
good that it happened back in the day because if that happens now, he will get sued. For
oh, probably, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, like, I wouldn't have sued him, but other people might.
No,
So,
no,
you know,
you're
the
cool,
world,
man.
you're right, though. The world is different now.
Oh yeah.
Especially post that whole thing went down with Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. Remember in was it
Oh,
the Czech Republic or whatever where he
I actually read his book.
ah
Have you read that book? The one that
no, I
Randy
haven't
did?
read it. Sorry.
It's an amazing read. Like, yeah, he was in the Czech Republic, and I actually saw them on that tour because they played Puerto Rico, I think, a few months
Nice.
earlier. So yeah, that's like someone got a lot of people got on stage, and you push them out, and
Yeah.
people were like, "Oh, but why did he do that?" But remember, Dimebag Darrell got shot while playing on stage. So after that, if I'm not a musician, but if I'm a musician, I don't want anybody in the fucking stage because you don't know if that person has a knife, a gun, if crazy. Like it's all about security. Like people think, no, it's rock and roll, but it's also security. Like,
That's true. It's interesting you should mention that because we play local shows over here, obviously, and in the local scene, I know a lot of people, obviously, who come to the gigs because it's a tight community.
side unit,
Um,
yeah,
so sometimes the thing is when you're on stage and you're singing or you're playing your instrument, you're concentrating on what you're doing, you're having a good
yeah,
time. Sometimes people get on stage, you don't even see it till it's like they're like right there in your face. You're like, whoa. So
yeah,
that
because
happens
you're
a lot.
concentrated on your job.
Yeah. So sometimes I think to myself, like, after the gig, not during, because like during you're just in the moment. But after the gig, I think, Jesus, if that guy had a knife or a gun, I'd be, he could have killed me
Yeah,
but I mean, most of the time it's just someone I know from the scene. They've jumped on stage and then they jump off, they high five, jump off and they crowd surf. So on one hand, I'm like, I want people to have fun. And I think that's awesome. And I love when people get involved. But when you sit down and think about it later, you're like, well, shit, man, if that wasn't my hometown, and that was somewhere else, you just don't know. Like you said, because of these things that have happened, you wouldn't have considered it before Dimebag Darrell and before the Randy Blythe thing. But now you got to be careful as well. And also, if someone jumps off the stage and hurts themselves, and all of a sudden they're trying to sue you, and you're like, well, I had nothing to do
because
with
that's
that.
what
But that,
happened. That person fell, hit his head, and he died
yeah,
from injuries weeks later. But
yeah,
it's
we
crazy when you read the book, and he got to Prague and he got like arrested, and he talks about this time he spends in jail. It's a great book, and even though
what's
with
what's
that,
the what's the book called?
I,
I haven't read
I
it
think
yet.
it's called Dark Days.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll look it up. I'll find it.
It's a great book. Uh,
Yeah.
Great book, and he talks about like his time in jail. And I still get amazed that Lamb of God still go and plays to Prague. If that happened to me, I would never set foot in that country ever again in my life.
You
Like,
know what? Part of me agrees with you, but another part of me thinks that's really cool that they've done that, that
yeah,
they've gone back there because
it
it's a bit of
is.
a statement of defiance, um, of like, this has happened, but we're not gonna let it define us. Do you know what I mean? We need to
Yeah,
move past, move on. But yeah, I know what you're saying. And it's not so black and white, the world these days. So you really have to, second guess and really think about things these days because if anything, that just shows how quickly, things can change and your life can just flip upside down in a second, because something that you wouldn't have even considered. So,
plus
because
the
obviously,
shows have changed because back in the day, frontman did stage diving and stuff, and that's completely changed from now. So
yeah,
it's not, back in the day, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam would jump into, like, would climb rafters and jump into people. So yeah,
yeah,
those days are long gone. But yeah, I still have fun at shows. But yeah, it's people
yeah.
don't think about it. But yeah, security, man. Yeah, like you gotta think about that.
I also think that COVID's had a bit of an effect on that as well because I've noticed since COVID that there are certain things like crowd surfing
Yeah,
and stage diving, like they'd totally got like they were on the decline, and then COVID happened, and then since then it's almost like because there was such a long time without that sort of live music, there was a whole generation of young people that didn't get to go to shows for the first few years that they're allowed to. When you first hit of age over here, it's 18. Once you're 18, you can start going to 18 plus shows. And so for the first few years of that, they missed out on all those formative years. So yeah, well, I've noticed that since COVID, and we've sort of come back, that yeah, like you said, the crowds are different, the atmosphere is different, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's not the same as it was beforehand, is all I'll say.
Yeah,
You don't see as much crowd surfing, you don't see as much mayhem in the pit. Don't get me wrong, there's still mayhem. Like even at the Machine Head show the other night, we got some circle pit action and all that sort of stuff. It's still fun. It's just a different kind of fun, I guess. And I think, yeah, the energy is still there. For me, it's all about the energy anyways, like whether people crowd surf or do dangerous things or jump from rafters, whatever. As long as everyone's having a good time and everyone's looking after each other, I don't mind. But just feeling the energy from the crowd, that's what I'm all about. As long as I can feel that energy, then I don't really mind that they're not crowd surfing or they're not, doing whatever. As long as they're engaged and we're having a moment together, the
yeah,
band and the crowd, that's the main thing. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
however people want to express themselves and have fun is okay with me.
That's cool. Yeah, and if they want to smoke some pot at the show, let them. Don't become Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, no, it's each their own. Like if it's if they want to go for it, if they don't, like I said, as long as everyone's looking after each other, that's the main thing.
That is true, man. So, Brendan, it's been great chatting with you about all this filth, music in general, Australia, and everything in between. So, people, all this filth, Tomorrow Will Be Better is out now. I'll put do you have physical copies for people who are interested in buying it?
Yeah, we have a web store on our website, allthisfilth.com. And depending on where you are in the world, you can get it through Brutal Records. I think in the States you get it through Brutal Records, and in Europe you get it through Seasons of Mist. So there's
Oh,
different
awesome.
links there depending on where you are. Oh, it'll save you money on postage. So if you're in Europe, get it through Seasons of Mist. There'll be a link on our site saying get it through here. If you're in the States or anywhere else, get it through Brutal Records. It'll save you on postage.
Awesome. So, Brenda, again, I want to thank you for taking time of your busy night to join me here virtually on the couch to chat. So, people, all this filth, if you like all the bands that we've been discussing, if you like industrial group metal, check them out.
Yeah.
Pretty cool band. And Tomorrow Will Be Better. It's a kick-ass album. So I would recommend it to people who who like Machine Head, Fear Factory, all those bands that we were talking. Check this out. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me,
Goodbye.
Hector.
You're welcome, man.